Alright, everybody. I believe last time we were working on making a Tic Tac Toe game. We managed to fill the entire board with X's. This time, we have to move on to the next step, which is to have it swap the players. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. We've already got code ready here, where I could just swap the player if I need to. Or we could do it down here in our kind of main game function here. I could do a little check to see what the player is and swap it there. So there's a couple of different places we could do this. It really depends on how much work you want to do. Since we already have this here, I could simply just do that. Player X just made a move. Well, there you go. We changed to player O. And then it'll swap that player. The only downside to that is I'm going to have to do it for every single one of these that we've already got here. I could do it down here with an if and a couple of other things. That would be a shorter way to do it. But since I've already got all this posted up here, and I'm not actually looking for the shortest way to do this, we'll go ahead and just uncomment these guys out and do it here. Probably. We did have an issue with turn count before, so how about we do a little check to see if this has the same issue, because it very well might actually. So I will zoom out, we'll run. Now, I'm not going to be able to put in O, obviously, but 1. That's what I thought. Okay. So we do have a bit of an issue here. I put in my X. My X probably would have happened, and I think if we follow this all the way down from game, if player choice equals true, if we equal X, we get to this, where it can't figure out what player is. And that's just because the same with turn count. I've declared player up here. This is my C, Java, and all that coming back to bite me. I could make this a global variable, I suppose, and that would probably solve the problem. But I'm not so used to global variables, honestly. I have to Google it a little bit to make sure I know what I'm doing, so I'm going to go ahead and just declare it down here along with our turn count. Just like what we got here. There we go. And now, I'm still going to run into the same issue here, probably. If I try to run this and do it. So what I'm going to do is, instead of doing it like I was saying here, which, honestly, I could 100% do if I made this a global variable, but since we're not going to do that, I'll just erase the extras. We'll do it down in the main like I originally mentioned. Here we go. Zoop. Just erase these last little bits here that I don't need. Because we're going to be doing a bit of copying and pasting later, and I'd prefer not to have a whole bunch of extra useless stuff. So, there we go. Alright. So, since my player variable is defined here, I need to swap the player. So if player is equal to X, capital X here. Now this is only going to occur if I made a move properly. So if I properly made a move, then that variable will change. I put my X in, and then it's going to come here and swap. So player equals O. Else player equals X. And a little comment in diff. There we go. So now I should swap players back and forth without crashing. That being said, I can't actually fill the board up yet, but oh no, well maybe I can't. Let's see. Let's see, where's my error? Player equals X. Oh. Uh-oh. I was using player here, was I not? Yeah, that's a bit weird now that I think about it. I had player defined up here, but it doesn't want me to change it. That's when it complained. So apparently I can check it, but I can't change it. Okay, that's fine. We can fix that. We'll just go ahead and pass the player variable when we call it down here. So, and there's at least a dozen other ways to do this, but there. Run. And this should go through this time, I think. Yay, but now we can't fill anything else out because the player is currently O, so there's not much we can do but stop it. So now that we got this up and running with a few little tweaks, and again, I'm pretty sure, I could probably set something up here to a global variable, and then I wouldn't have to do it this way. There's going to be a few other ways to do this, but I'll just leave it as it is. Now, we've got this. If choice equals 1, we put in X. If choice equals 2, we put in X. I need to do all of this, but for O. So let's go to about there, I think. Copy. So copy and paste can be one of your best friends. It can be fantastic. It can also suck and be horrific if you do it wrong. So what I want to do is I want my elifs to basically line up with this line here. And it should be elif choice equals 1 and player is O. And then I basically make a couple of changes with the O's here. So what we're going to do, back that up, and I'm going to paste. And it's going to spit a whole bunch of stuff out, and now I need to be very careful. This is the first if here, you notice, but it should be an elif. It should be lined up with that. Now, instead of X, it should be O. Instead of X, it should be O. So I just got to go in here and basically just make all the changes from X's to O's. The numbers and stuff can stay the same. That's perfectly fine. We're still checking out 4. We're still doing 5. Make sure I capitalize this. Because this is one of the places where you could, if I end up lowercasing this, all of a sudden none of my win conditions work. So, gotta make sure they're all consistent. And the last one, O. And O. And I had an else line up with this, an error, and it should never go there, probably, unless I type in 20 or something, maybe. Then it probably will. So what I did, essentially, is I just copied and pasted everything right here, and then added it straight down. Changed the X's to the O's for the other 9 options I threw in. Now, if I screw something up, obviously it will crash. If I didn't, though, I should be able to fill this entire board with X's and O's. And then, of course, my program should end, as you can see. So there we go. We filled my entire board. And let me just see what we got here. Option, show line numbers. We're about 200 lines in. Now, all of this that I just did, all of this here, it's like 100 something lines of code or so. Well, 17 down to, yeah, not far from 160 lines of code or so. That could be condensed down into probably 10 or 20 lines of code, honestly, or less. There are much easier ways to do this than the way I did it. But again, I'm doing this the longest way possible because it's a little more illustrative You can usually follow a longer path, makes more sense. Then if I throw in a bunch of loops and do a bunch of shortcuts, that tends to confuse beginners initially. But the goal is for my students who are looking at this to look at this and see where you can cut things out. For example, I know what the player that's currently playing is going to be. That fact right there would actually tell me a lot about probably cutting this in half just by knowing that option there. You add in a loop and one or two other things, and bam, I cut this thing that was cut in half to probably an eighth or something like that of what it already is. So literally it would be about this long, probably at most, if I really threw in some shortcuts. All right, well, we've completed our second step here, which was to fill the board, swap players. Now I can fill it with X's and O's. The next step is to see who won. So, come up here, and I can just call this, def check win maybe. And all I need to do is see who won. I probably would want to pass the player variable. That way I know, who I'm checking. And then it's just a simple matter of if statements. In my map, if you remember how we set this up, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, that is one if statement, compound, that I have to check. Do all those have X's? Do all these have X's? Do these, the verticals, and the diagonals. There are 8 win conditions for each player. So 16 win conditions total. And then there's the tie. So technically there's 17 possible ending conditions. So first things first, if, we'll start with this, if board 0, 0 equals X, and board 0, 1 equals X, and board 0, 2 equals X, then X wins, right? So X wins. Huzzah. Game's over. Although my game's not going to end with this, but I'll have to force it to end. We'll make this return true. Or perhaps there is a Python equivalent to instantly shut down the program, perhaps, but we'll go ahead and return true. All right, so that's our first of 8. So now I gotta do the rest. Elif, and I am not going to write all that out again, so I'm just gonna paste it. Board 1, 1, 1, and I'm gonna copy that, paste, and this will be 2, 2, 2, and that's my first 3 conditions there. So I paste again, it would be 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, I think. And this is why it's always good to jot down kind of a map of your boards. And you'll also note again, there is a pattern going down, going across, and that could be used to shorten what I'm doing currently significantly. So paste. This would be, let's see, 1, 0. Oh wait, no. 0, 1, 1, and 1. 2, 2. Oh no. In the wrong spot. 2, 2, and 2. And now I've got 2 more, which is going to be the diagonals. These could actually be done with about a basic loop. You know, it goes from 0 to 1 to 2. It goes from 0 to 1 to 2. So both of these could technically be done with a loop. My board's kind of small, so I don't really think it warrants it too much, but 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. 0, 2, 1, 1, 2, 0. Those are the last ones. So we find my check win. I can get down to it. There we go. Elif 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. And then we do the same thing. This would be, I think it's 02, 1, 1, 2, 0, if I'm not mistaken. We'll just check it. Yep, okay. Now, I've got all the X wins. Guess what we got to do now? All the O wins. Copy, paste, and change that to elif. And all I got to do is swap these out. O, O, like so. And I'm pretty sure there's probably a find and replace. I'm a little concerned, so I'll just go the old route. Wouldn't want to replace everything. But if you want to try that, go right ahead. Maybe if I just select the area, I can get it to replace just specifically the one thing, but I don't want to end up replacing the other stuff that I've worked hard to get going, so we'll do it this way. 0. Oh, I didn't change my O's here. And this is where you can easily mess up by missing a few spots. Missing any spots is going to totally make the program not work. So, all right, let's see. I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for O's. And I'm going to double check and make sure they're all O's. I should have 8 for X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then an else, which means, you know, nobody won yet, so return false. And check win. There we go. And those are just comments, just so I can kind of keep things a little bit organized. So, check win. And I capitalize that, in case you missed it. All right, so when do I check to see if somebody won? Well, I check to see if somebody won, well, when this whole thing occurs, when I actually swap a player, right? When this turn count happens. So what I'm going to do is before I swap players, I'm going to call check win. So if check win player, and what this means is basically if it's the same as writing equals true. So if I do this, then I'm just going to say, you know, turn count equals, you know, 10 or whatever. And of course, if we didn't win, that won't happen. So this will make the turn count. Wait, did I? Okay. This will make the turn count 10, which should force my loop to end. I could probably also just, I think break it's an option technically. Let's find out. That's another way we could probably do it. So if I pick 1, 2, 3. Now notice nothing's popping up, okay? 4, 5, 6. Now 7 should be a win for X. X wins. My program ended. I could alternatively just, like I said, turn count equals 10. And it would do probably about the same thing. So X wins, game ends. So either of those is probably fine. Personally, I think I kind of like the break better, but it breaks out of this loop, is what the break statement does. So there we go. A complete tic-tac-toe from beginning to end. Pretty simple. Almost 300 lines of code. And yes, it could be shorter, significantly so. But first we got our board. We've got our print. We've got our play, which allows us to actually put things in. We've had the X from before. We went ahead and added the O's. And then I added check win today, which allows us to check and see who won. And then my game, I move my player variable here, my turn count variable here from last time, and we got our thing running. At the very bottom, I just simply have just game, which runs that game method and starts the whole thing. So there you go, from beginning to end, tic-tac-toe.